If there's one thing I've learned, and this is universal, it is much better to play fighting games than argue with people on Twitter about them. Especially if those people that you're arguing on Twitter about fighting games don't play fighting games. Which I've learned is like the vast majority of people who ever try to argue about fighting games. This Obama tweet, let me read it. Guilty Gear might be the fighting game that has the most people talk about it that have never played the game or know anything about it. Yeah, that's probably true. I think that's why the Guilty Gear is so difficult shit is perpetuated all the time. And then level 2, fighting games are the #1 genre that when you consider community size, engagement, and viewership, participation numbers compared to other genres, have the most people talk about them but don't play, understand, or really know anything about them. That's probably true too. There's a lot of people who don't know much about fighting games that like talk about them all the time. I wonder if it has to do with community size that their voices often seem so loud. They're so attacative about fighting games that they don't play or care about or whatever. I guess maybe it's because our community is like so overlapped. There's so many different games in one space maybe. I mean, I realize that often when I'm teaching fighting games and I'm teaching like very simple ideas about fighting games, stuff that like mid-level players should often figure out or understand on their own, and most people just don't know it or they don't understand it. I don't think this is an attempt at gatekeeping. Like, in fact, I think it's the opposite. These people don't play the game. They're not like playing games often enough to really understand them, but they talk about them all the time. When it comes to commentary or when it comes to like people talking about the game and creating stuff about them, there's an expectation in fighting games, and this doesn't exist in other genres as much. There's an expectation in fighting games that if you are going to talk about a game, you have to give a shit about it and play it. I see people scrambling from all corners of esports to try to get their foot in the door some way or shape in Valorant, right? They're flying off the walls. People who they don't even care about FPS games. They're the next upcoming Valorant esports caster. It's like in their Twitter bio already and shit. Players from all over the place, like commentators and content creators, and like people are like scrambling over to do it. You know, when I look at other games and genres and stuff, I'm never a big fan of like seeing analyst desks or seeing commentators or seeing like interviewers or people around the game who are not informed about it. It's something that in fighting games in particular, we're very picky about, right? If you're not super embedded in the community, you get shit on for doing anything with it. Even if you want to do something super service level, the person doing the interviewing, commentary, analyst work, whatever it is, you can always tell if the person gives a shit. It's so incredibly obvious if they know what the fuck they're talking about, they care about the community, or if they're being fed a series of points and just like, you know, hitting the same story narratives that everybody else is talking about and talking about Adderflow dropping the big 7 months. Thanks very much. You can always tell. It's so obvious to me when I tune into a broadcast and there's like a person on a desk and they're like, so this guy, you know, you got to tell me about him. Everybody says he's the talk of the town. And it's like some guy and like he's not even the #1 player currently. And the guy on the desk like, you know, he's pretty good, but I think there's some other people that might beat him. And that, you know what I mean? Like, why is this person here doing this work if they're just like, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about and they don't care about the game or the community or whatever it is? And it's just like, ugh. If people don't care and they're willing to just be the guy that's like, I don't know anything about this, but I'm here to like put on a suit and cash a check, you know, it's fine. Like you can do that job if you want to. I just think the viewership will always know when you're not genuine about your interests. I think that is something that is important about commentators who are forced into, you know, people like Yipes and people like Giuna and people like Steve are often just thrown onto shit that they're not going to know anything about and they just kind of have to do it. What I love about them is they're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm the only person here on this mic. They only hired me. I guess I'm doing it. Giuna in Japan a lot of the time is like, all right, guys, I'm here at KSB. I don't know what the fuck this game is, but we're watching it together. All the other commentators are drunk. It's just me. You know, if you're realistic, it's fine, right? I mean, he's commentating some random waifu anime fighting game that none of us have ever seen before. You want to have the knowledgeable people doing your casting, but to discount people who want to talk about it and get into it because they don't know anything yet could turn those people off. I think it's true, but at the same time, like, if you don't know anything about it yet, then you shouldn't speak confidently about something yet. I've said it multiple times, you know, I was interested in Uni. I started playing Uni last February. I was like playing the game and interested in the game and following the game for like 8 months before I did commentary. And when I did commentary for the game, it was because somebody at an event couldn't make it to a block and they asked me to fill in for 1 hour. And I was like, guys, are you sure? Like, I don't know. And they're like, yeah, you should do it. And I did it. 8 months of being interested in a game and playing it. I was like, I guess I probably have enough knowledge to, get in and do something about it. But like, you don't see me tweeting about, you need tier lists and you need this and the community should do that. Like, I don't feel knowledgeable enough to like even discuss that kind of stuff, right? And I'm certain that I'm more knowledgeable than 99% of people who would be like, oh yeah, you know what I know about Uni? And so, it seems pretty fair to me to be reasonable about what you know or don't know. That's all there is to it. I noticed that there was a while ago, maybe like a year ago, there was a thread about commentators and analysts and stuff playing the games that they do. A lot of the fighting game people were like, nah, man, like, if you don't follow a game or you don't play the game, people don't take you seriously. And I remember seeing a lot of other people from other communities saying, no, you don't need to play the game that much. You just need to like understand it, through watching and like really being reflective about it and stuff. And I'm like, sure, I guess maybe you could, get in deep enough to a game without playing it extensively to understand it a bit. But like, it's hard to imagine that you really love the game if you don't play it. Like, let's say a new Street Fighter came out. Like, I could probably commentate a new Street Fighter without playing it extensively for a little while, right? And I could figure stuff out about it and I could talk about it. But like, to really have a truly deep understanding of the game, you have to play it. You have to understand what it feels like to be in those positions, what it feels like to play a character, what it feels like to think. Tuxderall, who dropped the big 4 months, thanks very much. You have to play the game to understand those specific instances. It's like when a commentator says, I don't understand, in this instance, what he should be doing is this, right? Or something. It's easy to say that, but if you haven't put yourself in that position and been like, it's really fucking hard to do this one thing while also watching to see if the opponent's going to jump at you and while also managing this gauge and what, what I mean? Like, that feeling is different than just like watching and being like, oh, if you jump the anti-airs, if you dash, you just stuff the dash. Like, it's not that simple. As a casual fan or as someone who just wants to enjoy games, it's no problem to like just check it out from afar and like watch it. Like, oh, that's cool. Don't make this tweet like, oh, if I'm a casual fighting game fan, people will not like me or people will be upset. That's not what this is about. It's about people who want to talk about them, want to talk about the nuance of fighting games or argue the nuance of fighting games with you, but don't play, understand, or really know anything about them. And when he says talk about them, he means at Obama, hey, you're wrong about this game because this, and this. Like, hey, Obama, you don't know about Guilty Gear because this, and that. Like, if you don't play Guilty Gear or really know or understand it at a deep level, you probably shouldn't be adding people who love the series and like really care about it and like trying to explain game mechanics to them if you don't play the game at all. You know what I'm saying? Listen. Twitter accounts are free. Any old guy with a pair of shoes and a keyboard can log into twitter.com and talk about fighting games. Anybody. They can just show up and just type whatever the fuck they want into that bar and it just at me and it just shows up on my timeline and I'm forced to read it. That doesn't mean they're right. It also doesn't mean it's wrong to be a fighting game fan and be casual about it. There's nothing wrong with being a casual anything fan. You don't have to go all serious into it.